Time to sound off, Husker Nation. This is your Real Red Reaction Show on Lincoln's KFOR. Call the show now at 402-489-1240.
Welcome to it. Real Red Reaction rolls forward. Nebraska in overtime falls to Wisconsin 24-17. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbal, Jeff Moats, Connor Clark. Numbers to get in at 489-1240. 489-1240. We're streaming on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, the Real Red Reaction YouTube channel, KFOR, Facebook, and Twitter, and the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter handle at HVarsity Radio. Find us one of those ways if you're making your way out of a football party and need to vent. We're here for you, 489-1240. Guys, it was a great start, a tough finish, a game-tying field goal, and then too much Wisconsin in overtime. I want to start with Nebraska's final drive, the game-tying field goal, and a little bit of gun shyness by Nebraska a week ago, and we've spent all week whining about the interception, the kick the field goal, and let your D win the game against Maryland. Nebraska had a great run by Chuba, 22-yard scramble, another big run by Emmett, and then from the 3-minute to the 1-minute mark, they ran 2 plays, fellas, and the urgency wasn't there. They settled for 3. I get getting out of Dodge and getting to overtime, but Nebraska had Wisconsin, it felt like, for the first time in that second half, reeling on defense. It was pretty much dominated by Wisconsin. Momentum, it looked like it would flip a couple of times with 2 monster fourth down stops by the Nebraska defense. But it was not to be tonight. Win number 10 in a row for Wisconsin.
Well, if we started off with that clock management, which is a rightful first place to go, I would like to say in the moment, I didn't necessarily disagree with it because you have the ball 3rd down and 2 with about 45 seconds left and you have the first chance to call the timeout. You don't want to not pick up that first down on 3rd down, be forced to kick the field goal and give Wisconsin the ball back with 40 seconds in a tie ball game. My problem was the fact that you only end up getting 1 shot at the end zone. I think maybe you call that timeout with 28 seconds left. They run it down to, I think, 24 seconds. And sometimes in football, 6 seconds can be a big difference. And you saw it on the final play. The fact that you only got 1 shot at the end zone really hurts. And if you have 2 plays at it with 1 more timeout in the back pocket, you have a chance to cut it in half and then go for the end zone. So I don't necessarily disagree with the choice to let that clock run down a little bit. I think running it down to about 24 seconds was too far to let it run down, though. Splitting hairs, you gave yourself a chance in overtime. The fact that Braylon Allen's tripping was not called in the backfield is a backbreaker for you as Wisconsin's able to go get in the end zone. You tip your cap to the Wisconsin offensive line, doing what Wisconsin offensive lines have done for years. Haven't done it all that much this year, mostly because of play calling. They get a huge push in that overtime, get Braylon Allen in the end zone. Nebraska's offensive line was pretty much the opposite in overtime, didn't get much of a push. You can talk about the option play call on 1st down, maybe a little bit predictable, but at the end of the day, Nebraska gave themselves a chance to win that football game. They send it into overtime. Wisconsin just executes a hell of a lot better than Wisconsin does in the overtime period, and it's a 10th straight win for Wisconsin.
489-1240. You want to get in here on Real Red Reaction, powered by Currency. And, of course, our friends at Lazari's helping bring you this post-game show. We'll get to your StreamYard comments. And it looked like Wisconsin was going to go march this thing in, fellas, in the second half and win by about 10 points because Nebraska's drive chart from the conversion that didn't go their way in that second quarter. Then you have the missed field goal. It was nothing but punts, right? Nothing but punts for Nebraska up until that final drive that was about 68, 69 yards. I think it was 12 plays. I'll get the official numbers here in a minute, but clutch by Chuba to get the guys in field goal range or within a chance to win that game in regulation. The tripping call was frustrating, but the bigger issue, guys, is a situation of Nebraska really, they missed way too many tackles tonight, and they missed a lot of tackles for loss. Connor, do we have a phone call, bud? Sorry, I missed you.
No, you're good. We sure do. It's from Will. Will, you're on the air with Real Red Reaction.
Will, go for it. Thanks for calling.
Oh, what the fuck happened? Jesus Christ.
Will, we can't have that type of language.
Yeah, Will, go have another drink and don't call again.
Yeah.
489-1240 is the number to get in, and we jokingly in our pregame show talked
Hopefully
about
have the delay dump on there.
We did.
Yeah,
I think we did.
Yeah, I think we're good. Moats is panicking. Moats, Brett.
Well, we've had that happen. I think that happened the last time I was on this show.
The F-bomb has already hit the over on the post-game show. The F-bomb matrix.
We had the Nick Saban swear jar conversation in pregame.
Yeah.
And listen,
but to get back to your point,
Will spilled out what Nebraska fans are feeling right now.
Yeah.
but to get back to your point about the missed tackles tonight, that's probably the worst performer I've seen the Nebraska defense have all season long. I mean, there were so many chances. Now, let's face it, Braden Allen was not 100% tonight. He'd been banged up a little bit. He wasn't 100%. He still did. He had the help of that offensive line. Wisconsin's offensive line is a head and shoulders above where Nebraska's offensive line is. But still, the Nebraska defense, which is still one of the tougher defenses you're going to find in the country, it was like they went back to where they were maybe a couple of years ago where the defense was very lackluster. It just happened in an instant like that. So I think that's kind of the big disappointment tonight more than anything is how the defense, especially after Nebraska went up 14-0, it was like once Wisconsin got momentum about midway through, the second quarter or whenever it was before.
It was the 4th and 1. It was the 4th and 1.
It was that in particular, that's where that momentum shift really took place. And then, of course, Nebraska's defense didn't know what hit him. And so I think that's probably one of the big differences tonight was how the defense was not able, I should say, to make big stops, especially when, there was so much pass protection for Mordecai to either look for try to throw the football downfield. Then he found an open crease. He was able to get downfield, and nobody for Nebraska was anywhere around to try to stop him for those big gains. So I think that's probably one of the bigger disappointments from this particular ball game tonight from Nebraska's defense that I've seen all season long.
Guys, Nebraska had chances in some drives that ended up costing them points to get a TFL, a sack. Now, for the missed tackles, Nebraska did one heck of a job at really willing this game into position. They made enough stops. I mean, Wisconsin tried to put it away, so to speak, on 2 4th-down calls, Elijah, and Nebraska's defense made some monster stops. Phelan Sanford on that 3rd and 3, gunshot, bang, TFL there. And then Omar Brown with a little help from Ty Robinson again. I mean, so it's not all on the defense. They were a little off. Credit to Wisconsin's offensive line. There was enough run game for Wisconsin with this air raid to keep Nebraska a bit off balance, but the mobile quarterback, Mordecai, did enough with his legs to make it problematic. 489-1240, Real Red Reaction. Do not swear, please.
Yeah, please.
And join us if you want to react to Nebraska losing in overtime.
Here's my take on this, too, and I feel like this is something that we didn't really talk about in the week leading up to this, and I think it's fair that we didn't talk about it, but You say Nebraska put up posters and stuff, right, throughout the week that they've lost 9 consecutive to Wisconsin. I think it'd be wrong of us to think that Wisconsin wasn't talking about the same thing. I mean, I know it's a new coaching staff on either side, but you have to think that Wisconsin, even down 14-0, right, are playing that game with confidence because you've had Nebraska's number. Now, I'm not saying that was the deciding factor in this game, but I find it hard to believe that wasn't a factor at all in this game. Now, you could go look at that final drive, as you pointed out, Schmitty, with the clock management. Maybe you go about that a little bit differently. I personally do not like the reverse call on 1st down and overtime. What are we doing there? I don't like that. Run the ball forward. Try and get that 1st down. I mean, you heard, I forget the caller analyst's name already, but he always talked about in that overtime period, getting the first down is crucial. And when you do that on 1st down, you set yourself behind the chains. Granted, Wisconsin read it beautifully. Give credit to their defense. They played that play absolutely phenomenally, the best you probably could. But the fact that you try and run that on 1st down and 10 to start off overtime after giving up the touchdown, a little puzzling to me. You could look at a lot of different things. I loved how Nebraska started the game. Chuba looked like he had a boatload of confidence, but as the game went on, you couldn't really find an answer offensively. Maybe things are different if Tristan makes that field goal at the end of the first half. I don't know. I don't have a genie in the bottle, but those are just some things that I look at, and I find it hard to believe that Wisconsin wasn't really talking about the same thing Nebraska was, just from a different perspective.
This game was set up, and we talk about the clock management, the lack of urgency as regulation was winding down. You had a game-winning drive to go for it, and a week ago you're not cautious enough. You overcorrect a week later, and possibly or too cautious. You get the field goal. You go to overtime. You win the toss. Your defense gets put out on the field. The start and the script and the use of Chuba as a dual threat with his headiness to run the football and scramble out of trouble, make some nice throws was key. I think you got to feel good when he's healthy moving forward about your quarter. If he can stay healthy, about him being a really solid option, not only next Friday, but for beyond with Nebraska at quarterback. And, we were talking in the basement here, was over at Jaybird's for the watch party, and we all kind of look at each other after that 14-0 start. We're like, where the hell has this been if you're a Nebraska fan? And I know Chubb has been dinged a lot of the year, but man, you have, when it comes to evaluation, you have this process of let's bring a guy like Sims in, let's go with Harburg, and then here's Chuba. Well, Chuba's performed better than any of them. I know he's 0-2, but from what you want to do with this offense, from a balance and throwing it, but also running it, he looks to be like the guy for the future. At least that's what he's shown in a game and one drive. But Nebraska doesn't get it done tonight. Numbers for you to get in at 489-1240, or if you're streaming us, 800-825-5865. We will get to all of your StreamYard comments as well. Hail Varsity YouTube channel. What's up?
I said, please keep it PG for my sake.
Yes, because we need to make sure we have a license come Sunday morning. Motzi, go for it.
I was just going to add on really quick. When you talked about Nebraska going up 14-0, I mean, Chuba Purdy's running, of course, that big touchdown pass, obviously very impressive. The problem I saw more than anything, and I think we've seen this before, is sustainability. If you jump out ahead like that, there becomes a problem with sustainability. I think that's one of the other issues with this offense. In addition to guys being hurt, you don't have the most solid offensive line or pass protection or run protection in the country. But I think sustainability, when you get up ahead like that early on and trying to hold on to that, especially when was it 14-0 in the first quarter and you still had plenty of time left to play, sustainability, in addition to the other portions of the game where execution became a problem, even special teams at times, especially in the punting game, was problematic. I think that's one of the other elements that people probably forget about, is just trying to sustain an advantage or keep that momentum, and not let a team like Wisconsin, who is just as much beat up like Nebraska has been, become take over that role and become a major factor down the stretch. But Chuba Purdy, I think with what he demonstrated tonight on the run game, even the pass game, I would not be surprised to see him in that starting role coming up next Friday afternoon or Friday morning when they play host to Iowa.
Well, he did well. Chuba did well. The offense at times looked pretty balanced, pretty explosive. I know, Elijah, you were wondering about explosive plays versus turnovers. We'll get there in a moment. Phone call, though, and who's on the line?
We got Sam on the line. Sam, you're on Real Red Reaction. Maybe.
Sam, go for it, bud.
Sam, you got us?
Yeah.
There you go.
Hey, look, I just want to tell you, I don't know how long it's been because I've been excited about Husker football, okay? And I know, you know what? I know. We we're hardened and we're breaking down, but you know what? At least we feel we have a chance.
Sam, yeah, Nebraska put a decent foot forward. It looked really good early and not so good late, but another overtime's tough to take. That's 3 gut punches in a row, 2 by 3 and 1 in overtime by 7. Vegas is a push tonight, but hey, I think you can be excited about Purdy moving forward at quarterback. Sam, thanks for the phone call. Appreciate you listening.
Thank you,
489-12, 489-1240. Go
Sam,
for it.
May I recommend a water, maybe a Gatorade? Just
I
help with tomorrow morning.
Maybe. We got one more phone call. It's Santos is on the line. Santos, you're on Real Red Reaction.
Hey guys, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Got you, bud.
We got you.
All right, I'm calling from Raleigh, North Carolina. I love the show, guys, and I promise I'll keep PG. Okay, so
Thanks, brother.
this is, to be honest with you, this is beyond frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm not thinking it right tonight, but this is very frost-like. The opponent makes the adjustment, and our coaches just stand on the sideline, looking like dumbfounded. Right? I started to kind of lose faith on Matt Rule a little bit tonight, unless he makes some changes at the end. At the end of this season. Matt Rule always says that we play to win, and we are very aggressive, and we have 1:34 left, right, on fourth quarter, and such a poor time management. I don't know why we're playing to go on overtime on the road. I don't know why we didn't play to win. Injured quarterback and running back from Wisconsin beat us tonight, right? Why didn't we put any pressure on who had a broken hand? We aren't going, and I have no faith that we're going to the bowl game this year. And one last question for you guys is, I'm looking at year 2. What is the success looks like for Matt Rule's year 2? Are we going to be very happy if we were to win 6 games next year? Or are we going to have the same story over and over again? I'm going to hang up. Thank you, guys. Love the show again.
Santos, appreciate you. Good thoughts, good comments. Listen, 6 wins next year with next year's schedule. I'll tackle next year after Black Friday. But there needs to be a jump. There's a reasonable thought out there that Nebraska should have a couple of more wins on the board right now than they do. They don't. Northwestern's going bowling. Wisconsin's going bowling. We'll see if Illinois gets bowl eligible. And Nebraska needs to figure out a way. There's a little bit more hope on my end if I'm a Nebraska fan with what I saw on offense tonight, at least the start, right? What did we talk about? We talked about how much of a teetering football team Wisconsin was, okay? And they had their hell week this week. They called out and questioned one another. Their emotional leader gets knocked out with a concussion before the first half, and Nebraska does about everything right in the first couple of drives. What zapped the energy was not. I don't disagree with the 4th and 1 to go for it and try and put him down. I really don't know the play call. You can second guess that, or the execution, right? 4th and 1, Wisconsin stiffened and turned you away. That flipped the whole ball game because Wisconsin was ready to crawl away. If you get that and you even go get a field goal and you're up 17.
Well, Schmitty, it was a teetering Wisconsin team you had today, but is it fair to say Nebraska is the teetering team now? Like how quickly that game changed on a 4th and 1. You still
absolutely.
Yeah.
And then Wisconsin drives the length of the field on you. The defense didn't look like they had looked previously in that game. On that drive, it looked like they kind of felt the pressure. Nebraska is now the teetering team, and it's obviously easy to say on 3 losses, but in that second quarter and third quarter especially, Nebraska looked like they were lacking the confidence that they played with in the month of October. That looked like a team that was really, really worried about the momentum that Wisconsin was gaining in that football game.
It was called Wisconsin. Wisconsin was throwing a couple of jabs. That knocked the defense back a little bit. Momentum was built up. Nebraska offensively kind of fell into kind of a conservative mode, and things kind of went downhill from there, I thought. And again, you're playing in an environment where you have not won a game there, since the 60s, and Wisconsin's won now the last 10 times against you. So again, when you get hit with a couple of jabs, even up 14-0, you still have to find a way to protect yourself if you're backed into a corner. And Nebraska tonight somehow, in many instances, could not do that.
Well,
the
guys,
fact that Nebraska put themselves in position to get the touchdown have been better, get the walk-off, get the win, that'd have been great. You at least got it to overtime after your offense did nothing. You found a way to get one drive to at least tie the ball game, but it wasn't enough. Connor, what were you going to say?
we got one more phone call. It's from John. John, you're on Real Red Reaction.
Yeah, guys, love the show. Appreciate taking the call. I just want to point out that none of you in your lifetime have seen a team that has had this many injuries on one side of the ball ever. And when you've seen something you've never seen before, that is the number one issue that you need to focus on. I'm talking about the defense. When you hold the team to 17 points and in the regulation time, when you've got an 8-yard punt, you've got 2 more garbage punts.
Yeah,
that's phenomenal. Like, you cannot ask much more than that. There's way bigger issues. Thousands and thousands and thousands of reps flushed from spring and summer and fall ball, not on the field. That is almost impossible to overcome.
Good perspective, John. Very good perspective. The special teams was problematic tonight for Nebraska. A missed field goal, and the punting has been either hot or cold for Bashimi. And yeah, I mean, for this team to muster enough up and put an offensive line together that kind of surged, and I know it was a tough night sack-wise for them, but from a rushing standpoint, yeah, I mean, all things considered, big picture perspective, for sure. The fact that they're still throwing punches and trying to be bowl eligible is very remarkable. All that being said, you've had some wins slip from your hands.
Well, it feels like the same story of the past couple of years of, it comes into a 1-score game at the end. Nebraska will tighten up.
Yeah, right.
Hey, Corey on the chat just put this up. I hated the lack of urgency the last 2 minutes of regulation.
Yes.
It seemed as though we were playing for the tie. Our defense also missed more tackles than normal. Our D wore down second half. Maybe we should have kicked the field goal to go up 17-0 on the third drive. We saw a huge momentum saw a huge momentum shift on the 4th down stop. Also, our punter is terrible.
Yeah.
Don't hate on old Thunderfoot.
Those are all big moments. And I mean, we'll get into kind of the flow of the game. Who's on the phone?
We got one more caller from Bruce. Bruce, you're on Real Red Reaction.
Hey, guys. I appreciate, and respect everything that you guys all do. I've been listening to you guys on YouTube for a few months.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, dude.
Thank you.
I just got to say, man, this is a coaching loss, man. Like, it's the same pathetic stuff. Like, to me, when you're on the road, you should go for that. Like, we had the timeouts and we had the time. And for some reason, this guy, Rule, for whatever it is, wanted to play for a tie. And it just seemed like they were scared to throw. Like, Purdy was going to throw another interception again. And we got to stop, this pathetic play, man. Just go for it. Like, if Purdy is playing the way he's doing, go for it. If he throws an interception, then he throws an interception. I have much more respect for a team that is going to at least give it a try. He did a good job today. I'm proud of him. But this stuff is a constant losing. It's pathetic, man. I blame this on Satterfield, and I blame this on Coach Rule. Thank you, guys.
My counterpoint is you personally can be okay with Chubba Purdy throwing an interception down late in that game, but if he does, this reaction show would have been Armageddon.
Mm-hmm.
it's working on it now.
Completely.
I mean, you have reversal of scenarios, fellas, don't you? I mean, Elijah, you go from last week to this week, and they're not playing without fear, right? They clearly pumped the brakes, and the urgency killed them. The lack of urgency killed them. You settled for 3.
Yeah, I just don't. And Elijah and I talked about this right before we went on air about the management of the timeouts, and I just don't understand. Like, I get it. If you're running an offense that's been very turnover prone all year, that's probably in the back of your mind as a head coach or as an OC. I mean, you don't want to give the ball away in that scenario. As Elijah said, if Purdy throws a pick there, this real reaction show is Armageddon. It's chaos. But I just don't. I don't understand. You call the time. You use your timeouts earlier. I feel like that just opens up the playbook a little bit more, and it gives yourself more comfortability to either throw that pass play, or if you want to mix in a little bit more runs, knowing that you have the timeouts, use them. And they just weren't able to do that. I feel like you can make arguments for both sides. Again, you have an offense that's been very turnover prone. You take the field goal. You've seen and heard Rule put a lot of trust into Alvano this year, even when he has struggled. I mean, he missed a kick at the end of the first half, but he comes through and knocks it through at the end of regulation. It kind of felt like Rule had pretty ample confidence in his true freshman kicker to do that. You could make arguments for both sides. I'm probably still going to err on the side of why didn't you use the timeouts earlier? I don't like playing for overtime, especially when you're on the road against a team that you haven't beaten 9 times. So that's my thought process on that entire thing. I feel like you should have used them a little bit earlier. Maybe that gives you a better chance to win it in regulation.
Mitch Sherman, our dear friend from The Athletic, just lays it out perfectly. Nebraska waited 20 seconds, burned 20 seconds, then called a timeout, had 3 timeouts. It was 3 and 2.
Worth.
Yeah, 3rd and 2 on the Wisconsin 18. And they're reeling after back-to-back 20-plus yard runs.
I'm going to be unpopular here.
That's fine.
I don't hate the decision to let the clock run. I just think you ran too much time off the clock. 20 seconds is a lot of time to run off the clock.
That's 3 plays. That's 3 whole plays.
I think you ran probably 10 too many seconds off the clock. I think if you have 10 more seconds, you give yourself 2 more shots at the end zone. I don't mind the fact that you don't want to give Wisconsin 50 seconds left to go be able to drive down 30 yards into field goal range. That's okay. My problem is you ran too much time. Only getting 1 shot at the end zone following that first down was the issue. You would have liked to get 2, if not 3 shots at the end zone. But running the clock as a whole was probably the correct move to make in that moment.
You've got to juggle at 489-1240 is the phone number, 489-1240.
Elijah and I will die on different hills.
You've got to burn a little bit of clock, but still have enough urgency to go execute and still continue to try and score the touchdown versus the field goal on the road. You reverse scenarios is what you did. You should have played safe last week for the 3 and the lead while you were tied versus being down. Who's on the line?
We got Zach on the line. Zach, you're on Real Red Reaction.
Hey, guys, the one thing that I think I see with going for it, just keep going for it. Your defense has stopped them. You leave time on the clock, they still have to score a touchdown. They have to go down and score a field goal. They'd have to score a touchdown.
Well, I think the concern is that if you don't pick up that 3rd and 2, you kick the field goal. Now it's 50 seconds for Wisconsin to get into field goal range and kick it to win it.
Did we lose him?
Yep.
We
like
lost
my
him.
counterpoint. Okay.
No, that's all right.
We have one more caller, too. I'll get him on here in just a second.
Okay, 489-1240, 800-825-5865. We've got a boatload of stream comments I promise we'll get to. Real Red Reaction presented to you by Currency and also your friends at Lazari's. Jeff Moats is in, Elijah Herbal is in, Chris Schmidt and Connor Clark producing. Bill Dolman might be wandering in traffic. He's probably not a happy Pride of Fairbury right now.
You know, on the Facebook comments, you guys, Corey points out, and I agree with this. I think Purdy played well enough to get the start next week, which I said I think he will get the start next week against Iowa. And again, it goes back to the offensive line. I agree with him. They didn't protect him well tonight. I think that was one of the major components that really stood out. And the bonus side with Purdy is that he protected the football. You know, we didn't see
the interception, but yeah.
But for the most part, outside of that final play of the ball game, he protected the football. And I think that's good enough. I think that certainly qualifies him to get the start next week. Now, if and nothing against Heinrich Harburg, who, let's face it, Heinrich's helped out Nebraska quite a bit earlier on to get at least up to the 5-win mark. Jeff Sims has essentially become a dumpster fire from a turnover standpoint. I think Chuba Purdy tonight, again, did a terrific job running the offense, did some good things, and outside that final play of the game where he turned the ball over by throwing the interception, I thought he controlled the ball really well too.
Early on, Nebraska was on fire with their third down conversions. That waned. Wisconsin 7-15 tonight. How many 3rd and 8s or 3rd and 9s or 3rd and 10s did they convert? As much as we think the defense is the reason for being on the doorstep of bowl eligibility, they are. The defense has been fantastic. You look at the combined plays, they're working on game 13 or 14 this season in comparison to the offense. They made some crucial stops tonight. A lot of missed tackles, a lot of missed sacks, and third down defense didn't get off the field. That was problematic. Who's on the line?
We have Craig on the line. Craig, you're on Real Red Reaction. We still got you, Craig. If not, we'll get to Jack here in just a second.
Craig, are you with us? Craig, hello. Cleveland, hello.
All right, never mind. We'll get to Jack here in just a second.
Jack, do we have you?
Jack, are you there? You're on Real Red Reaction.
Yep, I'm still here. Thanks for taking the call.
Perfect.
Go for it,
ahead.
Jack. You're on. Go for it, bud.
I just wanted to say I think that this is the most confident I've been in the offense all year. All year long, I've heard people complain about wanting to take care of the ball, and tonight we actually did that. So huge props to Purdy. His arm looks like he actually has an arm for the Big Ten. His throwing motion looks like a Big Ten quarterback, unlike some other quarterbacks we've seen this year. So huge props to them. On the downside, this is the third game in a row I would say the defense has not looked nearly as elite as it did at the start of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And my question for you guys is that just that we're playing better competition, or the season's wearing on, or have other teams seen a lot of the 3-3-5? Are they getting film on us and they're going to be able to start exploiting us this year and next year?
I personally
Thank
think
you.
it's a healthy balance of
Thanks,
your
Jack.
second and your third point. I think you've put a lot on your defense this year. They've been out there a lot this year. It's a very physical defense where some injuries happen. So I think there's the wear and tear of a season that hurts this defense. But yeah, this Tony White defense is a defense that came into the season is expected to be multiple. He was going to change some things up. There wasn't going to be film on this defense, and teams are finding film on this Husker defense, finding some things they can exploit. It's a chess match of teams finding something to exploit. Nebraska's defense coming back and film the next week, cleaning up that area of the game so more teams can exploit it. And you come back, another team is going to find something new to exploit. That's always the balance that happens in football. So I think there is that element of some teams finding some things, but combined with the fact that you're missing guys on that side of the ball too. There seems to be guys in and out of the lineup there every single week. That's life in the Big Ten. That's playing defense in the Big Ten. It's going to happen more with as much pressure as you put on that defense on a week in, week out basis.
Yeah, I agree.
You need your offense too, fellas, to not go 3 and out or 4 and out or 5 and out.
Right.
The entire second half until the final drive of regulation.
I mean, you've put so much on this defensive unit, and we've talked about it throughout the year. I mean, this is the unit that everybody thought or still thinks, which is fair, that's going to carry you to a bowl game, right? And at a certain point, and you mentioned it, Schmitty, there's only so many 3 and outs this defensive front can afford. There's only so many, you go back a couple of weeks, fumbled kickoffs to open the game. There's only so many of those that they can afford to go out to. At a certain point, you go through 12 games, you play in the Big Ten Conference. I don't care how bad the West has been this year. It's still an extremely physical conference. If you're going to put your defense through that and rely on them to carry you to that 6th win, at some point, it's going to come back and bite you. I think it was kind of a combination of that tonight. I thought Wisconsin knew what they wanted to do on this defense as well. Sometimes they executed it better than other times. Didn't really seem like they were as prepared for it on 4th down, except for overtime. So I think that's a little bit of it, but I think it's more so of you've been putting so much on that defensive unit this year. At some point, it's going to fall out from underneath you. I'm not saying it's fallen out completely from underneath you, but it seemed like it's trending in that direction, if that's the right usage of that term. And I feel like you put so much on them.
And I want to give credit where credit is due real fast. Motzi, you're right. It's sustainability is 100% right. But I want to give some credit where credit is due with Wisconsin, because I talked a lot of crap about Phil Longo in his offense this year, trying to go square peg round hole with the players he had on offense. He did a fantastic job of making in-game adjustments. You saw the flip that happened between the first and the second quarter with Wisconsin. they changed up how they wanted to attack the Husker defense. And they said, you know what? We're finding some success with our offensive line and running the football downhill. We're going to feed our maybe injured Braylon Allen until he can't take us there anymore. And they found a whole bunch more success. So I do think you have to tip the cap to Phil Longo a little bit to swallow the pride and be able to make that flip, because they weren't doing as much drop back as that game wore on. They were giving the ball to Braylon Allen, running some play action. So that's credit to Phil Longo. He realized that his offensive line was getting a good push against Nebraska's defensive line, doing a good job getting up to backers. And his in-game adjustments tonight were what really flipped the game. That's why the offense went from anemic in the first quarter to driving the field against Nebraska's defense in the second quarter. Phil Longo made some adjustments, and he won the coaching battle, I believe, between Wisconsin's offense and Nebraska's defense today.
Bucket Man Scouting says Rule coached not to lose. It got a little tight that final few moments for sure. J. Lou chimes in as well. Nebraska just loves to find ways to give it away. So bleeping tired of the same crap over and over. And this is an accumulation of one era to a first year in the Rule era, but it's the same movie for a lot of Nebraska fans. Tuck is confirming that he believes the F-bomb went out over. Forgive us there.
Well, it went out over the stream. If you're listening on the stream, you definitely heard the F-bomb. I think
You're telling me my dump delay was off?
Well, the dump doesn't do anything to the stream. It would be on the air. So
on the radio.
Who's listening on the radio missed the F-bomb.
That's where we go to the gas chamber. If it's radio or not.
That is
potentially.
We got a couple of callers here, guys. Here, we'll kick it off with I believe it's John on the line first. John, you're on Real Red Reaction.
Hey guys, I really appreciate our defense, but eventually, if you're on all day, then eventually you'll become cocky. How do we get our defense off the field and get our offense going?
Well, you got to get first downs and not go 3 and out. And I thought Nebraska did okay at times on their first down gains, so it's not 3rd and 9 all the time. But I think the average was about 3rd and 6.5 or 3rd and 7. So Nebraska was in some 3rd down and longs. They just didn't sustain any drives. There were too many penalties. I think 6 penalties didn't help things for Nebraska. And defensively, guys, Nebraska needs to get home on 3rd down or get some pressure. They had moments where they pressured Mordecai, but it wasn't always sustainable. We've highlighted the missed tackles, especially the missed TFLs or sacks. I mean, Nebraska had about 3 or 4 sacks that Mordecai got out of and scrambled. So that was it. But Nebraska did a good job for a lot of the time of putting Wisconsin in 3rd and long. But Wisconsin probably had 3 or 4 conversions at 3rd and 8 or longer. So it comes down to making a play on both sides of the football. Being able to convert a 3rd down. If you're Nebraska, they were 5 of 14, and being able to get off the field on 3rd down. Defensively, if you're Nebraska, Wisconsin was 7 of 15. That's how I see it, John. Just got to make some more plays compared to what Wisconsin did tonight.
Guys, we got one more caller, Chuck, and then we'll take a break here on Real Red Reaction. Chuck, you're on Real Red.
Hey, guys, big fan of the show. I was just going to comment on that in the first quarter when they were up 14-0. I appreciate that Matt Rule wants to be aggressive, but he had a chance to kick a field goal and go up by 3 scores, and instead he went for it on 4th down. Do you think he did that because he wasn't confident in Alvano, or did he just want to be super aggressive?
I think he was going for the knockout blow in the first quarter is what he was doing. He was trying to put the game away and say, Wisconsin, they've been teetering. We're going to put them away right now. That's what I think it was.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Totally agree with you. You had a better feel possibly of picking up 1 yard than a field goal from that angle.
I mean, it's the same rationale as kicking an onside kick in Ireland whenever you're up on points. It's because, you know what? We're trying to win this game right now with all the time left in the game and really put in a knockout blow. Didn't work in Ireland. Didn't work tonight. Usually it doesn't work like that in football. Sometimes you do see it, though. If Nebraska takes a 21-0 lead at that point, I don't think they lose this football game tonight. So I can see where Satterfield's coming from, but it's so easy to play armchair analyst, to play Monday morning quarterback, and to look at that and say that was the wrong play call. Because if it works, Marcus Satterfield's a genius, and that game's over before halftime.
If they go up 17-0, the question is, do they lose that football game?
That is true. Let's get a break here, guys, and then we can try and get to some.
We'll also welcome Bill Dolman to the show following.
We will.
The break.
He's in the green room.
Real Red Reaction, 489-1240, 489-1240, or 800-825-5865. And we'll get to more of your comments, your calls, your StreamYards in just a moment.
And don't forget, tonight's show brought to you by Lazari's Pizza.
And your friends at Currency. A quick timeout. Bill Dolman next.
You need to know.
The House Ethics Chair hands out a resolution to expel embattled Congressman George Santos. Nikki Haley emerges as the second choice in the GOP presidential race, jumping past DeSantis and Christie. The funding bill gets the president's signature, preventing a government shutdown.
Stay connected and find out what's next.
FM 101.5, 1240 AM, KFOR.
The A Street Market, your neighborhood grocery, has deals on your holiday feast. Open Acres frozen turkey, $2.27 a pound. Hormel bone-in spiral ham, $2.79 a pound. Our Family russet potatoes, $3.99 each. Stovetop stuffing, 2 for $4. Green Giant canned vegetables, 99 cents. Mrs. Jerry's premium macaroni and cheese, $2.99 a pound. Rose rolls, 2 for $5, and Sara Lee fruit pies for $5.99. Shop A Street Market, now offering free delivery with no minimums.
When you or someone in your family are feeling sick or run down, the last thing you want to do is pick up a prescription. As your community Health Mart pharmacy, Lincoln Pharmacy will deliver your prescriptions to your doorstep so you can stay safe and comfortable. You take care of yourself. We'll take care of the rest. Call 402-817-7978. That's 817-7978. And ask Lincoln Pharmacy about our prescription delivery today. Health Mart, taking the time to listen and care.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute? When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can. But it's just as important to take time for yourself. AARP can help. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Jeff Mall with Visit Lincoln. Assemble Lincoln, a group comprised of 8 local, state, and federal policymakers, business leaders, and members of the Lincoln community, continue to drive the next steps to make a downtown Lincoln Convention Center a reality. The group is also supported by the Downtown Lincoln Association and Visit Lincoln. Chaired by Lincoln Senator Elliot Bostar, the 8 members of this committee will continue working towards a timeline for construction and site selection. 3 current subcommittees continue their work, including public engagement, partner development, and internal finance, and will continue to work with the county through RFLI review, RFP development, site selection, or a multi-year build of this impactful project. You can find more information and ongoing updates on the project at assemblelincoln.com. Exciting days are ahead for downtown, our city and state, as we work together to build a better and more desired tourism destination. I'm proud of tourism in our community, and it's one more thing I enjoy about life in Lincoln. I'm Jeff Mall.
Hi, I'm Steve Carper, and I'm here to tell you that there's never been a better time to buy flooring. Whether you need carpet, wood flooring, ceramic tile, vinyl, area rugs, or custom blinds, you got to come to O Street Carpet. With our 12-month interest-free financing, you can do one room or your whole house and leave your holiday budget intact. And with our huge in-stock selection, you can buy today and we'll install it right away. 1732 O Street. We want to make you a customer for life.
Hi, I'm Tony Dungy. Our son Jordan needed the specialized care that only Shriners Hospitals for Children could provide, and it was incredible to see the love and dedicated care he received. Shriners Hospitals for Children is a healthcare system dedicated to improving the lives of kids with pediatric conditions.
Shriners Hospitals for Children is changing the world through caring for kids. Please give today at 1-800-241-4438 or at shrinershospitalsforchildren.org.
Our daughter Lee was born with brittle bone disease.
Thanks to Shriners Hospitals for Children, I can go to school, play, and do fun things like other kids. They've helped me so much. They're like my family. We need your help. Please donate today.
Shriners Hospitals for Children is changing the world through caring for kids. Please give today at 1-800-241-4438 or at shrinershospitalsforchildren.org.
This is the Real Red Reaction Show. Phones are open now. 402-489-1240.
Back with you. It's Real Red Reaction, powered by Currency, helped bring in part to you by your friends at Lazzari's Pizza. I need a slice of pizza pie right now. The Pride of Fairbury, Bill Dolman joins us. Connor Clark checks in. Elijah Herbal, Jeff Moats, Chris Schmidt, 489-1240. We'll get to your YouTube comments, and we will also get to your YouTube stream comments. Billy D. Whew. Deep breath, 24-17, overtime. Is Shaggy hiding? How's your voice?
I'd like to reiterate what Will said earlier in the show.
See? That's been seconded and tripled and thirded and fourthed. Yeah.
I feel like I'm watching, at times. At times I think I'm watching Matt Rule's vision for Nebraska football, and then sometimes I would think I'm watching a replay of the last 5+ years. Tonight, on the positive side, we've said for a few weeks that we didn't think Nebraska's quarterback for next year is on campus, and I based on what I saw from Chubba Purdy tonight, I would think that if he comes back, that he should get a legitimate shot at being the guy. If not being a very, very serviceable top backup. If he hasn't been playing because of performance, that there's a problem. If it's been a groin injury that's kept him out this long, then I hope he sticks around and gets a shot, because I thought he looked really, really good. I thought he looked poised. I thought he made good decisions for the most part. I thought it was the best quarterback play perhaps Nebraska's had all season. And that includes games in which they won. Although Heinrich Harburg in his first start or so, I thought was pretty good. But I thought Purdy was a real bright spot for tonight, and I think going forward. And I hope he's healthy next year, and I hope he's around. But that said, special teams were atrocious tonight. Alvano, okay, you're an 18-year-old kicker. This is the 11th, 10th game of the season. By now, you've had opportunities. You kicked a pressure field goal last year. That's what endeared you to everybody in Nebraska to win the state championship. That was a makeable field goal at the end of the first half, and it's not an shucks, he's 18, and chalk it up to experience. No, by this point in the season, you should be making those. I thought Brian Buschini, who had a really good start to the season, he averaged 35 yards per punt tonight. He had a long of 49 yards, but he hit one that was a Bellotta ball in the first half that changed the field. When Nebraska had a chance to, pin him down to probably inside the 20, he had one punt out of 5 inside the 20. And instead of putting him inside the 20, I think he put that ball right back at midfield, when it Bellotted back. So that was, I think, a huge key in the game was the fact that Nebraska did not turn the field over in the punt game. And Brett's had an opportunity, everybody saw they had a chance and to perhaps block the punt if he lays out. How often do you have those opportunities? So maybe he wasn't quite thinking that it was actually going to happen for him, but he's got to lay out a little bit more. Other than the missed tackles, again, that's something we saw so much over the last several years, and they've been such a sure tackling team this year. But missed tackles turned into 13-yard gains, and Wisconsin's offensive line played like Wisconsin's offensive lines have over the years. They for the most part owned the line of scrimmage. The only other positive that I can think of is that when we did the Average Joe Sports Show the other day, we went around asking for scores, and I said it was going to be a tie. When the hell did they put overtime into college football? That's news to me.
well,
I was dead on, balls accurate with that one.
I wish what you'd have taken a tie based on how that overtime went.
Yeah.
Bill, Nebraska's defense was not perfect. They missed some plays. They made some plays, and they tried to will momentum back in Nebraska's favor and hand it to the offense with some fourth down stops. and you go 3 and out. But at least you muster a drive to go tie it, and the tease continues.
Yeah, and, there were other times going back to the last play, we talked about it of the Maryland game. How Nebraska's had to adjust its offensive game plan because of all of the injuries, and they've tried to adapt and adjust, but every now and then they just got to go to that, the plays that they've been wanting to call all the time. And there were times like that again tonight where it was, the running game's working pretty well. I think Emmett Johnson's fantastic. And all of a sudden it's like, I think like the beginning of the second half, Nebraska had done a pretty good job of running the football. We got to throw the ball, and they go to that game plan that they want to run, and you go 3 and out. And those things are mystifying to me, but I think we're all used to it by now.
Well, you're not going to get used to it. I mean, 80% of the comments on here are still about the offensive coordinator. And our resident Wisconsin listener, Rock Westfall, I'm trying to find his comment. There's a million on
Wasn't he in the Flintstones?
He's probably starred in lots of things.
Rock Westfall? That sounds like a Flintstone character.
It sounds like some sort of name, stage
like a
name.
second cousin to Joe Rockhead.
Something like that. But he
I found it.
Yeah, put that up if you can, because
there you go.
Yeah, no, not that one.
Oh.
Not that one.
Oh, that's got to be the comment of the night right there. I saw that and I just died.
That's what you're talking about.
No, he was talking about vintage Wisconsin, tough, smart, and they really outcoached
So
Nebraska.
an actual comment.
Yeah, since it was 14.
Not everybody a good laugh at least.
Not any early grenade work.
That's the only one I see from him. Where is it?
I don't know.
You have to admit that is a classic comment. I think that's the comment of the night on the chat.
If you are a stream viewer, good for you, because you saw that. We also do have a caller on the line. We have Brian, if we want to get to him now.
Okay, let's go to Brian.
Brian, you're on Real Red Reaction.
Brian, go for it. Thanks.
This is Brian from Beatrice.
Brian, how are you doing?
Hey, doing good. Sounds good. Good to meet you guys. But hey, I think the boys look good overall today. But what do you think? What happened to the punter and the kicker? It's like they don't want to go bowling. What do you think?
I think Buscemi, and we had a caller bring this up to us, and I think he was a high school football coach.
Thanks for the call, Brian.
Brian, appreciate the phone call. He drifts back, where he's leaning back when he's kicking it versus following through. I don't know if he's got a dinged ankle, if it's mechanics. I have no idea, but he has hit too many just pooch kicks when he's needed to just unleash the fury and knock 150 in the air. And he had the 49-yarder, but that was his only kick of the night. The other one, he had a 19-yard punt. He had another one that was a low liner that brought back shades of Michigan State 2021. I mean, a low liner. So, I mean, it just killed Nebraska, and Wisconsin got lathered up, had a short field, committed to the run. They didn't by any means go off. They averaged 3.9 a carry tonight, but they stuck with it to Elijah's point, where Longo said, you know what, let's hammer away. And that time of possession was pretty in favor of Nebraska until the second half, as Nebraska won the time of possession, but it could have been a lot better for Nebraska. Their offense really didn't have any rhythm or start clicking. But Buscemi, it's mechanical right now, I think. And from Alvano, he was, if he had been further back, I think the fade from right to left maybe would have snuck in the upright, but it didn't start breaking in time for Nebraska on that field goal attempt at the end of the first half.
The goalposts are wide enough to kick through that you don't have to worry about squeezing a fade in there or drawing it in. I mean, just kick it right down the middle, for Pete's sakes.
I mean, the difficult thing about Buscemi too is you saw very similar numbers from him against Michigan State, and those proved costly. And we literally talked about it today and on Friday about how you couldn't really afford to have that 35-yard, 34-yard average per punt from him, and that's what you got tonight. And it, as you said earlier, Schmidt, he kind of changed the field, and that was a big deal in this game. I'm not saying it is the cause of the result of the game, but any time that you have a big-time punt that can flip the field, that's huge, especially in a game like this where it's close, it's a night game, it's against a team that you have not beaten forever, and you got bowl eligibility on the line. I mean, you have to have all three phases of the game performing at a pretty, at least mediocre level, and I didn't really think you got that tonight. So it's just kind of, it's tough to see, and it's the second time in the last 4 games, really, that we've seen that from Buschini, so something's got to get figured out.
Mr. Mark K, not our Mark K, says, we suck backside. So there's another comment of frustration in disheveled Nebraska fans. Guys, you want to hear a little bit of Rule right now? Should we fire up Rule? His post-game comments. It's Real Red Reaction. Phone lines open for you for another 35 minutes. We'll go a little longer in the stream. We're 90-minute stopwatch / shot clock for KFOR and KFORnow.com over the air, but we'll go digital after that 90-minute mark. And you're welcome to ride along with us on KFOR Facebook and Twitter, the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, and Real Red Reaction YouTube channel. We're powered by Currency and our friends at Lazari's helping bring this post-game to you. We will be at Lazari's for post-game and Real Red Reaction on Black Friday. We'll be at Single Barrel. Danny says, I enjoy these post-game streams more than the games at this point.
Let's go.
Thank you.
Danny, I appreciate you.
We aim to please.
Here is Matt Rule. Matt Rule, post-game, Nebraska loses in overtime 24-17 to Wisconsin.
What's up, fellas?
Guys, we don't have any audio coming through on the stream, so let's take a second here on Matt Rule and get that squared away, as we don't want dead air going for 10 minutes out over the stream. Correct, stream listeners, we weren't having any audio coming out. I know it's coming out over the air.
Let me figure that out.
Well, we can continue chatting away here as we welcome Jabba Chamberlain into the show. Jabba wanted to give his thoughts on tonight's game. It's good to have
Jabba, we can't say it now since we're on live radio, but we were talking about the Nick Saban over-under F-bomb, and he put a swear jar in his office every time he swore during a team meeting, and he made the comment he's going to ask his wife for an allowance each week. We had, unfortunately, a caller kick things off with that second favorite F word in the English language other than Friday. Your thoughts on Nebraska tonight? It looked great early, looked really bad in the second half. They forced overtime and didn't get it done again against Wisconsin.
And it should be noted, we're on the air here, Jabba, so you got to keep the F-bomb allowance to yourself to 0.
Yeah, we're good. No, we're good. We're good. I had a 50th birthday party last night, so I am completely fine right now. No, I think listening to the show when you and the reaction, and I would like to obviously get your guys' reaction for this. And you guys talked about the timeouts. They've brought it up, and the message earlier was the one guy saying, he was like, "Oh, we're playing for a tie." My thing is, like, is Rule playing to win, or is he playing to be okay? Like, if we go into it in the aspect of what it is, like trying to go in and win the game, and if we fail and not use our timeouts and not do that stuff, I would rather do that than not be. I don't want to play. I don't want to play to lose. I don't want to play to tie. I want to put us in the best situation where if I'm being overly aggressive and people may disagree with that, like just watching, and I was like, I feel like we're not playing to win. And that's kind of where I'm at.
I think there was an overcorrection the last 2 minutes of this regulation session based on last week. I think they got frightened. I think they thought worst case scenario. And why wouldn't you think worst case scenario with the turnover problems that have plagued this football team, other than you'd gone all game without turning the football over. You got a new guy handling the football in Chuba pretty well. Grant really ran well tonight, covered the football up. So it looked like a different team from a ball security standpoint. They were locked in on that point of view. And yeah, they had a chance to put it away the way Wisconsin was back on their heels that final drive. They didn't have an answer. And if they somehow muster a stop, so be it. Then you kick the 3 for the tie. Unfortunately, Nebraska was out of sorts. They let 20 seconds burn. Then they use a timeout. Elijah has a good take with it's okay to let a little clock burn so you don't give Wisconsin a chance to go kick off another game winner on you. That said, you just didn't look buttoned up in this 2-minute drill, other than being able to get it down into scoring position. It's like, okay, if Emmett didn't break another tackle to get into the end zone, Wisconsin got the stop they needed, because Nebraska would prevent themselves from scoring either with play call or execution, or dare I say turnover.
Sometimes I think coaches coach like they're in the NFL again, and every game in the NFL is 21-17, 24-21, and you just play to manage. It's all, they try to manage the clock, except for Nathaniel Hackett. And it just seems like Matt Rule still has NFL tendencies that, you play a little more reserved and close to the vest and play for 3 and not be aggressive, other than the 4th down play in the first quarter. Maybe that was one of the reasons why he milked it down and wasn't so aggressive in the second half.
One of my sticking points here is I don't think Matt Rule was playing for 3. I think that's a bad way to put it. I think he was playing to keep Wisconsin's offense off of the field, which again is an NFL tendency with some of the high-powered offenses you have, and with what Wisconsin was able to do in some of their explosive passing tonight. I think he was playing to keep Wisconsin's offense off the field, which, don't get me wrong, it's a conservative approach to your offense. I don't think playing for 3 is the right way to put it. I mean, he still took the shot to the end zone. I think you as a Husker fan would have wanted 1 to 2 more shots at the end zone.
Right.
But he was playing to keep Wisconsin's offense off the field, which after you saw what Maryland did last week, especially combined with the fact that Chuba threw an interception down there last week, I think you're saying, hey, whether we get 3, whether we get 7, we just want to make sure that we don't lose this game in regulation, knowing that we're in field goal range here. The worst thing that can happen in Matt Rule's mind was you go to overtime. And if you lose it to overtime, you can defend that. If you lose in regulation because you kick a field goal with 45 seconds left and Wisconsin gets the ball back with 2 timeouts and they drive down and kick a field goal on you, you say that's terrible clock management, Matt Rule. You got to let the clock run down. He's really stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I mean, getting it to overtime was disappointing, but you gave yourself a chance in the extra frame to go out and win it. So it's hard for me to say that was the wrong decision. I think the execution of that said vision wasn't perfect, so you give yourself a couple more shots to the end zone. But he was playing to keep Wisconsin's offense off the field at the end of that game and make sure that you can't lose it in that way. It's like, I mean, everyone remembers the AFC Championship game a couple years ago with the Bills and the Chiefs, where they just kept on trading touchdowns in the last couple of minutes of that game. Matt Rule didn't want that situation where, you know what, you gave Tanner Mordecai and Phil Longo too much time. You want to say, you know what, we're going to make sure we get 3. We're going to hope for 7. And if we go and lose this game in overtime, it's better than losing in regulation, which might be a wrong mindset to have. But I understand where that's coming from with what you've seen in the past couple of weeks.
Let's go back to Matt Rule. We've got things fixed on the stream. And Matt Rule continues here with his post-game comments.
Credit to Wisconsin. I thought they did some things, wore us down a little bit. Some guys got banged up for us on defense, came out of the game, got it to overtime and just couldn't get the stop. And then, couldn't convert one of those plays at the end. So disappointed for our guys. Proud of the effort that they did give. A lot of things that, we've talked about were significantly improved, but just wasn't quite enough in a close ball game. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that we got into field goal range first. You know what I mean? I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to get down. We were going to take one shot at the end zone. Kind of akin to last week. I felt good about the kick. I wanted to make sure he got in range to make the kick. Give him a chance to take a shot at the end zone and go from there. So, looking back, maybe should have called that earlier. So maybe we had 2 shots at the end zone, but. I know a lot of people ask me why I didn't just run the ball last week and kick it last week. So, I thought we had a good play there. Billy, he gave Billy a chance, kind of the same thing we did before the first half, and then kicked it. So, we got big, ran the ball because we wanted to make sure that we were within range, and then got the first down. But that was really kind of the thought process. All the plays. I'm sorry that. All the plays you guys played. I thought Chubba played really well. One play along the sideline where maybe it was an interception, the ball went out of bounds, but I thought he protected the football. I thought he pulled the ball down when they went to run. I thought he converted 3rd downs. I thought he was hot in the first half. He thought he ran the football. We didn't call a lot of designed quarterback runs or anything like that, but he was doing a nice job, in my opinion, of just, if it wasn't there, pulling the ball down and going. So, obviously we hit a little bit of a lull there at the beginning of the second half. That's, kind of watching them. That's kind of what they've done to people. And, but found a way at the end to go make some plays. So for his first start for us, this year, I thought it was really something to build on.
Coach, what was the biggest issues, I guess, where you scored 14 right away, and there's that lull, like you said, just what was going on?
Yeah, I think we moved the football. We moved the ball down. Had 4th and 1. Didn't get the 4th and 1. This was a game, right? I thought, hey, I'm going to probably collect points, but basically, there's not an analytic that doesn't say to go for him 4th and 1, and it's really less than 1. So disappointed that we didn't get that. That's a play that to win these games, come to Madison, win these games. I think you got to get. I think that certainly would have helped us, right? It's like it's 14-0. I think it was 14-0. Forgive me if I'm off, but 14-0. You get that 4th and 1. All of a sudden now, that can kind of sometimes be the backbreaker. And plus, we're still a little bit further out. Come down at the end, you go to kick the field goal at the end. Take one shot. Try Malachi in the corner out. It's not caught. Go to kick the field goal. It's not quite there. So, I thought those things were pretty good. And then just unfortunately, some of the plays we tried to be aggressive on. Run a reverse. They hit it for a loss. Wanted to give the guys a chance to make some plays, and just didn't quite make them. So a lot of the ball game was being played because some of the punt returns on our side of the field. So a couple of times, I punted even with 7 minutes left. That's a tough decision right there analytically. Like the book probably says to go for it, but I punted it, trusting our defense. And then we get the ball back, and we did. So I made some tough calls there. But I think overall, they came out early on. They had some different things they did defensively. We really hurt those things, and they went back to kind of what they do. Some of the corner pressures bothered us, but I thought we made plays. And then just even at the end, those last 3 plays, right? We run a quarterback draw with an RPO. Corner comes, he side adjusts it. The guy knocks it down. Ball's just off Malachi's hands. Ball's just off Jalen's hands. So I think you saw a lot of things from Chubba in terms of his willingness to stand in there and compete. And so, we got 1 game left. I would love to see those guys. I think we put the tough thing. It's hard to say this when you lose, right? But we're pulling a lot of things together. The quarterbacks. I don't know. Do we have a turnover tonight? Yeah. Yeah, at the end, yeah. So, but in terms of throughout the course of the game, I thought we protected the football, and but just wasn't quite enough. I mean, he could go. Like, it's kind of like I said to you guys on Thursday. Like, he was in uniform, hadn't really practiced, and was kind of been out there on a limited basis. So, it made sense to put Chubb out there and let him play. And I thought he had a good week, and I liked the way he looked last week. And he certainly came out like gangbusters and got us going. But I think even in the interim on the plays where we didn't quite get, I wouldn't put any of that on him. I thought he did a really nice job tonight. I think that's really, when you go back and look at it, right? And the drives, the drives now run together for me. But we have the touchdown drive. I think for them to take the lead, it's like 2nd and 18, and we blitz and we hit him, and he shakes us off and runs. We're a team that prides itself on our defense, and the defense prides itself on tackling. And reverse that play, a lot of guys had opportunities to make some of those plays. And so, when we talk about momentum, we talk a lot about the offense and all those things. To me, defense, we could use a sack fumble. He ran a lot of quarterback draws tonight. Tony was blitzing them. He was twisting them. We would love to come off and make a play on one of those plays. So credit to them, though. Credit to Tanner. He made the plays at the end. I mean, it was, when you think about it, it was a quarterback draw at the end that won the game for them in overtime that got them down there. And so that'll be frustrating for us. I thought we did a good job of stopping like the downhill runs, but Allen ran hard, and they made just enough plays on third downs.
On that third down call, it wasn't a blitz, but what was the third down call when Mordecai went right up the defense?
I can't remember that right now. I'm sorry. You're talking about the very last one. Yeah, I don't remember what it was. I'd hate to say that to you. Pretty much everything down the stretch was some version of a twist or a pressure, just because of kind of the number one play we were trying to stop after a while was just a quarterback draw. And I thought he did a nice job. 6 hit us across the middle several times, man. So they made the plays down the stretch. I mean, he's played a lot of football. He's in his 6th year. He came out to compete, playing with a broken hand, and he competed and he made plays. So I got to give him a lot of credit. Yeah, I mean, these guys are pretty crushed right now. They're pretty crushed emotionally, and but that that's okay. It shows that they care, and it shows that they put a lot into it. And sometimes in life, we give up on our dreams, but the dreams never give up. Our dream never gives up on us. That's one thing I've always believed, and so. I'd love nothing more than to go out there with them on senior day and go battle a great Iowa team, a ranked team, and play them at home and try to go get a 6th win and go to a bowl game and extend this for these guys. But even if it doesn't work out, I'm honored to take the field with those seniors, and I'm honored to be out there with them. And they've wanted to win, and obviously when you want to win, you want to be tangible. But a lot of guys have done so many good things, and so. We'll down the stretch, those last 2 balls, you think about those last 2 balls, the last 3 balls, right? They got thrown to 2 true freshmen, and Malachi and Jalen. And I put my arm around Jalen. I was like, that play's going to come to you 1,000 times and you'll make it. But those seniors are the ones who've built a culture where Gifford runs out and puts his arm around Jalen Lloyd. So I'd love to see these guys go play one last game. I'd love to see them, shoot, at the end of the day, we're 5-6 with a chance to go be bowl eligible, play a great Iowa team. I'm excited for them. We'll bounce back. When these guys, they don't quit, and but they are hurting right now, and they are hurting right now, both physically and emotionally. And but you know what? As I said, that's okay. It's part of life. We have to learn to not shy away from that, lean into it. And I bet you, Iowa's a really good team. I bet you these guys bounce back and they play hard on Friday. Yeah, I didn't feel that. I mean, I think I think, at the end of the day, I mean, it comes down to tackling, right? Like, I mean, like you make a tackle, you make a block, you cover a guy. Like, I didn't think there was any lack of emotion or passion out there. I mean, our guys, we lost a lot of guys during the game. Guys were stepping up. We had, you have a true freshman out there who's redshirting, returning kicks. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there laying it on the line. So, I honestly think, Mitch, our guys like it when we go for it. They like feeling like, hey, we're trying to win the game, So, there's nothing that I think they would, that said that. I think you're facing a Wisconsin team that, I mean, what was the final score of the game, guys? 24-7. Yeah, I mean, take out overtime. They gave up. I mean, our guys on defense probably don't feel great about the game. They gave up 17 points, to a team that knows how to score. I mean, shoot, I think that just they made a couple plays, and we went into the lead. We went into the lead at halftime. Into halftime with the lead, excuse me. It's really more to me about just in the second half, just making a couple plays. I think they found some things that bothered us, and tempo runs with some routes and some shifts, and Phil Longo's a great offensive coordinator. They did some really good things, but I think Tanner made a bunch of plays. So I didn't feel that. I just thought that was part of the back and forth of the game. Like, to me, I always knew the game was going to come down to the last. I mean, I say that, I think that every week when you guys I'm like, guys, we're going to play the game. It's going to come down to the very end. Like Nick comes through on the sack on second down, runs the guy over, kind of gets tripped up. He sacks that guy. All of a sudden they're out of field goal range, and it doesn't, overtime changes, right? Like, to me, it just came down to one play, very simply one play. And unfortunately, they made that play. Credit to them. But we'll be back, and we'll make those plays many more times than we don't. Thanks, guys.
That's Matt Rule. His post-game show, Real Red Reaction, is powered by Currency and brought to you, too, by your friends at Lazari's. More of your comments to the Hail Varsity YouTube stream, the Real Red Reaction YouTube channel, KFOR Facebook, KFOR Twitter, and the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbal, Jeff Moats, and Bill Dolman. Jabba Chamberlain joining us, and Connor Clark. Chris Schmidt. We'll get to most of your comments probably in the next 15 minutes, or after that we'll focus stream only. It's about 13 minutes and change if you want to join us via the phone on KFOR and KFORnow.com, 489-1240. Or 800-825-5865. Guys, I want to go back to the initial script, the points, the deflation of that fourth down play that Nebraska didn't get. I like Rule saying, I want to go for it. I want to play for the win there. But you got tentative towards the end of the game. He brought up, last week as an example in his post-game comments here. But there's no honing in on an identity. Nebraska didn't either want to or feel like they could risk some quarterback run, even though early in the ball game that really sparked the offense. And when they did go option, it was short side, and the short side option worked great. In the Osborne era, Nebraska still hasn't figured out how to run it. In the Rule era, your fullback doesn't touch anybody, and one guy takes on two and strings it out. Really tough way to start overtime. So the option play, I think, with Priddy and his wheels. I mean, George Darlington never stops raving about Chubba Priddy's wheels and how good he looks throwing the football and how deceptively fast he is. But Nebraska's identity is still a question mark, right? A little bit with what they're great at, with what they want to do. They were true to their word, and they ran the football in the fourth quarter. But when push comes to shove, and we'll go around the horn here, Elijah, start with you. It just feels like Satterfield just gets in his own way with the rhythm of the game. If there's not a big play that gets him down there, or it's the home run touchdown, then it's pretty hard to put long drives together. And that's the case for a lot of teams. It's easier with a big play to get the score. But Nebraska and Satterfield, it seems like he just can't settle in, or he's just too inconsistent, either with the execution he gets or with what he's trying to decide. We'll start with you, Elijah, and go around the horn.
sometimes whenever you watch those high-level play callers in the NFL, Andy Reid, recently Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan, guys like that, it's unfair to compare a college offensive coordinator, Marcus Satterfield, to those guys, but I'm using them as an example because a lot of times it feels like those guys have almost a flow state once a game starts, where they're trusting their gut and they find a rhythm with the play calling. It never feels like Marcus Satterfield finds a rhythm with at least this offense. And maybe that comes down to personnel. That's why I don't think you can fire Marcus Satterfield after only 1 year with all the injuries you see on the offensive side of the ball. The quarterback you went after didn't quite work out for you. Is that an indictment of the coaching staff and the offensive coordinator? Yes, but I think you have to give some grace in that element, in that it is hard to find a rhythm as an offensive coordinator whenever you don't have the pieces that you want to go out and run your offense. I think he could have done a better job this year tailoring an offense to the pieces that he has. He hasn't done so. But at the end of the day, this is not the offense that Marcus Satterfield wants to run at Nebraska, the one that he has, at least the pieces he has right now. And I think he's trying to go a little bit square peg, round hole. Doesn't find much of a rhythm. I'm reserving judgment as a whole on Marcus Satterfield, the play caller, until he's able to find some different pieces, put some different pieces into his offense and see what he can make happen, get some development from those freshman wide receivers, get some development along the lines of scrimmage. He hasn't impressed me this season in his role as an offensive coordinator. Don't get me wrong on that. He doesn't seem to have much rhythm or flow with his offense, but I also struggle to know, like, chicken or the egg. Is it the play caller or is it the guys going on and executing what the play caller has called? Because a lot of times those really good offensive coordinators have the pieces that the guys make them look really good. So that's why I can't get on board with Marcus Satterfield is the reason that Nebraska lost this game tonight. Marcus Satterfield's offense is terrible. I'm reserving judgment until I see what this offense looks like fully fleshed out. But Marcus Satterfield, of all the coaches on Matt Rule's staff right now, is probably on the thinnest ice. But I don't think any coaches are gone after 1 year unless they go take a head coaching opportunity or a job that pays them a whole bunch of money.
Mozi, what do you got?
You know, I think with Marcus Satterfield, considering the injury situation that they've had on offense this season, I think he's just trying to throw anything out that he thinks may work. You know, early on in the season when you still had guys like Gabe Ervin that could run the football. Now, granted, Johnson's done a very good job this year. Anthony Grant's done a pretty good job. We've seen Chubba Purdy and even Heinrich Harburg run the football pretty good too. But it just seems like if you go with the run game and finally the defense picks up on what you're going to do, then you start to panic and you start to try to run the offense by going to the pass game. If the pass game's not working, you're trying to find anything possible that you can to try to get past that defense. And when it doesn't work, you start to panic. I think it's more of a panic situation now with Marcus Satterfield and what they're trying to come up with in terms of play calling on offense. I mean, there have been several instances of that through the course of the season. I think tonight there were a few grand chances where Nebraska could have just driven it right down deep into Wisconsin territory and buried them in the first half. You know, we talked about how they could have gone up 21-0 in the first half of action. I think that was certainly possible. The Alvano field goal, that decision in the first half, obviously didn't pan out well. He missed it from 42 yards out. I mean, I think Alvano's a good kicker. This is his first year of college football, but that should not be any excuse. You've been in the program now since, the summertime before you were getting ready for fall camp. And by this point in the season, you ought to be able to go in there in a situation to kick at least a 30, 40-yard field goal. You know, if you're pushing 50, I understand it. But, Alvano, he was a good kicker in high school at Westside. I think he's done a pretty good job considering what Nebraska's been up against this year. The special teams is not perfect by any stretch. But, I'll give Alvano credit. He's been clutch at times. But I think when you go back and look at the offense, with the injury situation that's going on right now, it's just been, okay, let's take this from over here and put it over here. Let's see if this works. Let's see if this works. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. And again, it comes back to sustainability. And tonight was a prime example where you go up 14-0 and you cannot sustain your momentum. You can't sustain the lead. And things go haywire from there.
And I didn't mean to step on your toes there, Mozi. I just want to remember, or people to remember, Matt Rule at Baylor and Matt Rule at Temple, because I think this offense and the pieces that they have reached that point of, like, Baylor, your roster is almost bare bones by the time you get there because of the scandal you're coming from. Temple's just a bad football program for the most part, and that's what Matt Rule had to walk in there. And the offense, through injuries, has reached that point. So I don't know why so many people are so doom and gloom about Matt Rule in year one. I mean, a lot of people came into this year expecting Nebraska to go 3-9 because, Matt Rule does it in year 2, or Matt Rule does it in year 3.
Postseason berth.
They're a game away from a postseason berth, and they're doing it down 8 starters.
They've been
on
a
the
game
offensive
away
side
for
of the
3
ball.
games.
And that's what's frustrating, and that's why I understand why Husker fans feel so doom and gloom. But, whenever you take it in context, you remember what it took for Matt Rule to get it done at Baylor and what Matt Rule took to get it done at Temple, the offense is kind of at that point of bare bones with what they're working with right now. And that's why I think you do have to take a step back and understand what Marcus Satterfield is working with. And that's a pretty bare bones offense that is going to be hard to run what you want to run. I do think it's an indictment that he hasn't changed his offense to try to fit the strengths of the players that he has, or at least hasn't changed it enough. But the offense at this point reminds me of what Baylor and Temple had in year 1, which is practically nothing whenever you compare it to the long-term build he had at both Temple and Baylor.
But also, let me sorry to step on you there, Job, but we'll get to you here in a moment. I apologize. But Elijah, if you think we do not see this injury situation with this Nebraska football team, do you think the offense would have fully established an identity by this point? I think they would have had you not had the injuries. But I think when you have no other options to go with, I mean, you're doing everything you can to try to win a game, or at least give the impression that you're trying to win a game. But I mean, that's the problem.
With the quarterbacks that you had this year, you were always going to be behind the 8 ball. But I think the offense would have looked different if it had its full complement of pieces at this point in the season.
And you can
Jabba,
say
go
that,
ahead.
But my point to listening to Rule and covering sports, playing sports, everything too. When can we actually stop saying competing is a point? Because at the end of the day, just competing doesn't win games. And that's where it's that mentality and the aspect of what it is I understand the injuries and I understand all the other stuff. I understand decision-making and, I've been a part of it. Obviously, I can't speak from it from the college perspective or the NFL perspective, but I always want to go into the aspect of I want to win, and when is competing enough? I don't want to be average. And I feel like everybody in Nebraska doesn't want Nebraska to be average. And we have the opportunity. I feel like we have the pieces in place, and injuries do happen. But I'm so tired of hearing competing being that dynamic of what it is and being okay. I don't want to be okay. I want these kids to succeed. I want to be able to talk and be no, we're not competing anymore. We're in the place where we should be. And I think that's the place where I feel like we can get. But is everybody on board? That's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, we see the Rule videos, we see everything, and they're great. Don't get me wrong. But is everybody buying in that aspect?
I think he's got buy-in. They just need to finish, period. End of discussion. Yeah, competing's nice. You're not going to make it through a Big Ten season unscathed unless you're Michigan or Ohio State. So you're going to have some one-score losses. You're going to have some one-score wins. The objectives to be 9-3 or better if you get a special year. The problem is you have it rolling early and then it goes away. Absolutely goes away for most of the game. And you saw that last year with the peekaboo offense where you're so reliant on big plays. And you've seen this movie 100 times with the previous regime with one-score losses. So they need to turn those competing moments into winning moments, and that's part of this first-year build as far as trying to learn how to win and handle these pressure situations. They'll have another opportunity next Friday because it's going to come down to probably a one-score game again. Can you get it handled? You had your chances this night in Wisconsin to finish them off, and they were wounded. They were ready to go down for the count, and you just couldn't put them away. And to their credit, they came back. Bill, a thought from you on Satterfield, and if he gets in his own way, is it hard to tell or not? As I'll reconnect my stream, you guys can still hear me on the Comrex. So, Bill, your thought here, and Job, a good take on the competition part with Nebraska.
Well, I've been saying for a long time that I'm willing to give Marcus Satterfield the benefit of the doubt because of all of the injuries and the fact that Nebraska's down to, really its second, I shouldn't say second team offensive line because you have some starters there. But, we don't know what kind of depth there is behind those guys. You lose Irvin, you lose Johnson. Sims doesn't work out like you thought he was going to. Harburg had a strong start. And then I think maybe the enormity of the job and the pressure kind of got to him just a little bit because he hasn't had the dynamic kind of plays that he had in his first couple of starts. And granted, the competition got better too. But, and all the receivers left, I shouldn't say all of them left, but, the top line receivers aren't the same ones that they thought they were going to have at the beginning of the season. And the guys making plays right now where they thought were going to be redshirting. So I'm willing to give him all of those. But that dude loves him some reverses at the most inopportune times.
The trick play at midfield, for the love of God.
Yeah. It's like, and I've said it before. It's like, yes, he's gonna run some plays based on the personnel that they have, and it's not the Bill Callahan or even the Luke Fickell square peg round hole. I think Nebraska has whittled that peg down so that it does fit just a little bit. But every now and then he'll go to that playbook that's sitting over here, and he'll bring it out. And when there's momentum, let's throw the ball 3 consecutive plays. They're all incomplete. That happened at Minnesota. Remember that? Go way, way back to the beginning of season. That was a tell, right? There were a couple of plays in the Minnesota when there should have been the Gabe Irvin touchdown. They're a 1-inch away. Throw the ball, it's intercepted. And then I think it was later on in the game, they got it and they go 3 and out. Took 30 seconds off the clock, and Minnesota, I think, scored. I don't remember all that, but it was like I just have got to run these plays that I want to run. And I want to run some reverses and some trick plays. There can be times where you don't have to run a reverse for 3 games, but you damn sure know there's going to be 1 or 2 that are going to be run by Nebraska. They scored on a reverse last week against Maryland. You remember that? Which was like, I can't believe they're doing this. And Bonner just barely got into the end zone. So, look, it's been a tough hand that has been dealt because of injuries, but every now and then I think that, there's an ace on the table and it's face up, and he's going to, go to his own deck, and he draws a joker. And so that I think is a bit of a problem. Look, people get down on Rule. I think Matt Rule has done a pretty good job. Sometimes I think these coaches get their in the first year and they think, well, I've got a year to play with, and we just we're saying that it's a rebuild. Well, Jeff Brom's kind of done it differently at Louisville this year, although that was probably a better situation. But on the other hand, I've said this for years. Dabo Swinney, they wanted to run him out of Clemson, after his first year when I think he went 6-6, and everybody didn't know who he was. Texas wanted to get rid of Sarkisian after year 1 and halfway through last year, and now he's got him on the cusp of going to the football playoff.
We're crying out.
Mike Norvell at Florida State. They wanted to fire him after he lost to Jacksonville last year.
Step back. First year at Georgia, Kirby Smart goes 7-5. They went 8-4 the year before. It was a step back, and Georgia fans were pissed off. What does he do? He goes and wins a national title the next season, or he makes the national title the next season and wins one 2 years later. Like, year 1, it's frustrating. I understand that losses are still happening in the same way. I also understand we need to take a break, Schmitty. This is my last point here before we do that. But year 1 needs to be taken with a grain of salt, especially with the fact that, Kirby Smart went 7-5. He didn't lose his 3 top receivers and 2 of his offensive linemen and his top 2 running backs. And he was able to keep his starting quarterback all year long. He wasn't on the 3rd string quarterback by the end of the year. There's been so many issues with this Husker football team this year. I'm not going to say it's a miracle to be 5-6. It is Nebraska. You have more resources than almost everyone else in the country, including the teams you're beating in the Big Ten West. 6-6 should always be the baseline for Nebraska. But you have to understand in the context of where Nebraska's been the past 5 years, the worst 5-year stretch in their history, with all the injuries you've had offensively, the fact that Nebraska is competitive, it's frustrating, but it's a start.
But Nebraska's not a 6-6 school.
No, but they're trying to get back to being a 6-6 school. So we're going to step away on air. We'll continue Real Red Reaction for probably about 30 more minutes, take you to the midnight hour here on the Hail Varsity YouTube and Real Red Reaction YouTube channel, KFOR. Facebook and Twitter still is where we're able to get connected. and stream to you, and the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio. So go ahead and fare thee well on KFOR, KFORnow.com, and we'll keep rocking here digitally on the stream with this platform. Chris Schmidt, Bill Dolman, Jeff Moats, Elijah Herbal, and Jabba Chamberlain, Connor Clark, as we'll keep rolling here. Connor, you go ahead and fire those spots. Check out the replay of this if you're, well, sadistic.
And Will, don't call back.
Will, 1 year ban for you. No, so for you.
Actually,
You
technically,
can call Bill at his cell phone.
no, technically, once we're off the air, Will is free to call back because there's podcast guidelines we have to follow at that point. But
Jimmy,
most will blow a gasket. So.
Don't feed the beast, Elijah. Don't feed the beast.
Can we even do phones?
No. Maybe.
Yeah.
We can.
Yeah, we probably can, actually.
Oh, wow. So Matthew jumps in off the top rope with the time for the F-bombs.
He's been waiting for this all night.
He went Randy Macho Man Savage on that.
Oh, yeah. He did. Nebraska 24-17, another loss, another soul crusher to Wisconsin. So I'm in the basement here at Jaybird's. And once this, Wisconsin rolls off 17 unanswered, right, fellas, to make it 17-14. And we all kind of look at each other. It's like you're in the men's room and you lock eyes for a moment and just nod to somebody you know, but you don't know their name.
Not even in the, no, you don't. Not in the men's room.
Well, if you're just both washing hands, right?
I hope that's what you're doing.
I don't try to make contact.
I said men's room, not rest stop. All right. So
that's fair. Like,
guys, I'm going to just jump in here and say, make sure KFOR listeners, if you want to keep on listening, up on the Hail Varsity YouTube page, check the stream out there.
We just
for now,
did.
we sign off from our KFOR listenership and continue streaming online.
He already said that.
Yeah.
But we didn't get into the break. We are now. We're good to keep rolling now.
Fine. Okay. Great. So
thanks for the heads up.
The audible. We're good. Point is there was that old familiar feeling of, is Wisconsin going to keep this 17-0 run, UNLV, Larry Johnson style, and make it a Melvin Gordon 30 spot, right? Was it going to get worse? Did Nebraska have an answer? Finally, they had a bit of an answer with that final drive, but man, it's
Schmitty to go to you and
it's showdown time. It's showdown time. Black Friday. This team's got to find a win. They got to get bowl eligible. They've had too many chances to not get to postseason, and they need development. They need more practice time. I get it's year one, but dude, find a way to get a win. Period. End of discussion.
My point too is like, Wisconsin obviously made an adjustment. We did not make an adjustment. And to see the fact that we could have gone up and done those things. And that's where it's like, I get it as a fan. Like, obviously I'm through and through red in Nebraska and everything. But like, when we see a team that makes an adjustment like that, why aren't we making the adjustments as well? And where is the disconnect in that aspect?
Well, some of the adjustments may have been made but not executed. Defensively, what did they do? They just
made and executed. Doesn't matter if you don't make it and you don't execute it. You obviously haven't prepared for that.
It comes down to Rule was right about blocking and tackling and making a play. Like the defense didn't need to get blown off the football. On first down. I mean, Wisconsin was getting 7 yards of crack for most of the game on first down, it felt like. Offensively, if I see another bubble screen where the wide receiver gets thrown into the guy who catches the football, so it's a loss of 3 and it's 2nd and 13, I'm going to lose my mind. That has replaced my hatred for the swing pass. That is now higher in the never call it again for the love of God. Play in plays Schmidt hates.
Took the place of that,
right? I mean, it's beyond the swing pass. No, it's up there because edge guys can't block or don't block. So quit calling it. I get it's a rhythm throw to get your quarterback settled, but Chubb looked pretty good throwing downfield early out of the gate. So,
well, the thing about that too, Schmitty, is that we know it's coming. You see Nebraska line up. You know,
he's going to block.
Right. It's like it goes back to the Solich Jamal Lord, days. 3rd down and 8 quarterback draw. 3rd down 8 quarterback draw. It was just a given. And then you see Nebraska line up. You know, I'm not a defensive coordinator, but I know exactly what's coming, and I'm sure they do too. And then when I saw that pass to Grant that was going to go be a pass back to Purdy, knew exactly what was coming, but it's a tell.
I want to get into this comment here from Anonymous here for just a second, because this stat is incredible. Nebraska, dating back to 2016, has played in 7 overtime games. In those overtime games, they have never scored a single point or even gotten a single first down. Across 7 games, a total of 9 yards. Once you include the negative 6 yards they had tonight, 2 penalties for 10 yards, 8 attempts rushing for negative 13 yards, 5 of 15 passing for 27 yards, along with 4 interceptions and 0 for 1 on field goals. That is some of the most atrocious overtime stats I have ever seen, dating back to 2016.
That's a.
By the way, Anonymous is terrible. Like, put your name on that. Like, you did some research. Like,
Anonymous is a fantastic contributor. That's his middle name. Is a.
See, now I'm going to look on the bright side of that. That shows consistency.
In a bad way. Thanks, Dolman. Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you so much.
For the love of all things holy.
Yeah. As the love of all things positive, we're consistent in being terrible in OT. Thanks, Bill. You're great.
Yeah.
There's the wild.
How do we change it? How, where I understand injuries and I understand a lot of stuff, but it's like I'm over here banging my head against the wall as a Husker fan, and I will ride and die red, like I said. But that's like, where does it change? And that's the thing where I'm like competing and doing all these other stuff where it's like, okay, we had a chance to go up 21-0. We had a chance to do certain things. And we have the opportunity to do it. Do we have the clientele to do it? I don't know that because I'm not there every day. But it's also, if they don't know how to win, and when you get in those situations,
they don't.
When you know how to win, you know how to win.
It's got to happen one time. I mean, the Northwestern's the one game that was a 1-score game that they did hang on to, and Northwestern's learned from that loss and is now bowl eligible. Can I ask a question for the room? And I don't know this. I'm just wondering, has Chubba been hurt all year, or was their hand forced to play Chubba? And if he was available all year and it took Harburg being shaky and Sims being what he is to force their hand to play Chubba, what's going on with the evaluation at quarterback? And I guess it's kind of a stupid question because, I mean, they put a lot of money on Sims. They said, thanks, Casey. See ya. I mean, there's some red flags here with quarterback identification. And I won't say development because Harburg developed a little bit from nothing to, all right, here's some strengths he has, and there's 5 wins he led Nebraska to. But if Purdy can do this, what's the season look like if he's the guy from day one? I know he was dinged a little early, right? So he wasn't the number 2 guy. But what's it look like in practice to where he's not outperforming Sims and where he's not outperforming Heinrich? Because, I mean, Chubba looked night and day, fellas. Remember against Michigan, remember against Oklahoma, just how flustered he was in that moment. He looks like he's an old-time vet pouring a vodka martini.
Well, I think part of it is the lack of quarterback identification / evaluation before the season started. Now, I know that you can't really point to Jeff Sims and predict the year that he's had and the way that he has struggled, but at the end of the day, a big talking point among the fan base, you picked him over Casey Thompson, right? And that's been kind of a big thing of like, okay, well, what does the season look like with Casey? And then maybe you pick Harburg over Chuba just because you have more confidence in him. And again, I don't have any intel about what kind of injuries, if any, Chuba's been going through this year. But let's just assume he's ready to go by week 3 or whenever Heinrich was needed in a starting role. Maybe you just pick Heinrich because of either A, the way Chuba's looked in practice, or B, the way he's performed in games previously. I don't know.
Yeah, you had that groin thing that needed surgery, so that's a red flag too. Can we run him out there? But he looked great. He looked great running. He looked great throwing when he had time.
I think
Thank you, Ken E, for the $5 chip in. We've made quite a bit of money to buy pay for some drinks at the bar after the final post game show.
Actually,
no, not now.
Actually, my favorite comment, though, also chipping in, Arizona Husker, saying it finally happened. Not a gummy to be found in Arizona tonight for Arizona Husker.
They were taken.
I find that hard to believe.
They were taken at halftime and just devoured like they're just regular gummy bears.
Hey, Arizona Husker, cross that northern border to the northeast. You'll find all you need right there.
Don't let
to go to Durango?
Swallow a balloon.
Right. Hey, Connor, to your point, do you think that affects to the aspect of knowing from day one who your guy is and you're going to ride or die on that? And we've obviously had to bounce around and injuries happen. Yeah. Do you think that does affect the aspect of a team knowing like who you're going to ride with, knowing we had 3 capable, 4 or 5? I mean, we had 5 literally scholarship quarterbacks at one point. Where do you think that affected like the aspect of like camaraderie? Because continuity and everything that you do is being together all the time and knowing who's going to ride with you and do everything. Do you think that changes a lot of it?
I mean, it could. Obviously you don't predict Jeff to turn the ball over as many times as he has or get injured. I mean, that's obviously something that you can't really predict, especially the injury part. But I mean, that could have something to do with that. It's just like I don't want to say indecisiveness because they had their guy chosen and some things have just come along, bumps along the road. But
they settled for him.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it, Schmitty. I mean, again, I go back to the earlier point. I mean, this could be quarterback evaluation prior to this year, dating back to spring. I mean, it's hard to kind of put a perfect statement on it, but it just seems like it's a little puzzling of like, okay, we're going to go with Sims. We kind of know what his background is with turnovers, but we like his intangibles. We like his physical attributes. Maybe we can coach him out of that. He gets hurt, plus turning the ball over a gajillion times in the first 2 games. And then you kind of have the same issue with Heinrich. So I don't know. It's a good question, Job. I couldn't really give you a concrete answer to that.
I would like to know what the conversation was like between Rule when he first got hired and Casey Thompson and what shook down. Was it just a different philosophy on things?
Charles talked to us, and you're going to have to compete for the job was pretty much the.
Oh, it was a little more direct than that. It was Matt Rule essentially told Casey after spring football, you're going to have to compete for this job. And if I was going into my senior year, I would transfer to make sure I had playing time, assuming you want a professional career after this. Was essentially what Matt Rule said to Casey. That's according to Casey's dad.
Ken chimes in. Rule did. That does jar something for me. It's kind of blurring together this 2023 season. As someone earlier in the chat said, 2023 is Nebraska's the official get right team for everybody.
Great. We're slump busters.
So we are. We're the 2 that looks like a 10 at last call. That's what it looks like. But around game 4,
I was going to word it different, Schmitty, but good job.
The quarterback situation. We've all talked about the Casey Thompson and the Jeff Sims thing. Now, I when I look at Sims, and I'm going to believe Matt Rule at what he said that those single digit numbers were voted on by the players. Okay. So I can't imagine, unless they felt, well, this is coach's guy, so we're going to vote and that he's going to get one. But by all accounts, he came in here and was a very good teammate and worked hard and showed leadership. And so he did fit the part of being a starting quarterback, and the players believed in him. And I mentioned the Harburg thing a few weeks ago, that, the coaches valued Heinrich Harburg's talent, physicality so much that they had him as an H-back tight end at the beginning of the year. They wanted him on the field. They didn't envision him being the quarterback in week 3, right? But they like Sims. The team likes Sims. They voted him a single-digit number. I put a lot of value in that. If that's a true player vote. Harburg, they wanted on the field, and by all accounts, Purdy was hurt. And whether they had confidence in him and, in him either being healthy or just confidence, period, and that didn't materialize until when they absolutely had their hand forced last week. I don't know what the relationship is, but by what I hear, Purdy, has been a good teammate as well and was biding his time, likes it here. He just wasn't ready to play. Today he got his chance, and I thought he played well.
And I can say, Bill, just obviously knowing people that are in the program, the people that got voted for the single-digit numbers, that was a pure player vote. It wasn't coach's vote. It wasn't anything. And I have really good friends that their sons play, and it was earned. It wasn't given, and that's something to be made special. And I love the dynamic that he's creating in that aspect. But at the same time, it's like sometimes if it doesn't transfer, you got to change some stuff up and try to figure out how to balance both stuff. And I think he has the right pieces in place. It's just, how do you figure out to not do the block in a circle and try to get it the right way?
Our old friend Mike Schaefer has a pretty telling stat he just put out on Twitter. Nebraska's opponents this season, 58 punts, almost a 43-yard average. 24 punts inside the 20, 5 touchbacks, 21 punts of more than 50 yards. That's what Nebraska's dealt with in their special teams side of things. Nebraska, 50 punts this year, a 40-yard average, 18 punts inside the 21 touchback, 6 punts for more than 50 yards. So just 6 punts of 50 yards or more. And in games like this, and games against Maryland, games against Michigan State, the last 3 weeks, when Nebraska's defense has given up a drive or two, it's been a shorter field. You've had just a handful of teams all year long go 75-plus guys.
And that's not all on the punter. I mean, you have to look at turnovers as well with that factor. Like, Buschini hasn't been a perfect punter by any means, but I don't think he's the reason why Nebraska has lost football games, right?
He's not helped.
But some of those, the inefficiencies in punting, you got to go deeper into the numbers as to when those bad punts occur. I mean, that's part of it. And I think tonight we saw instances where there were bad punts at bad times.
Yeah, that's true.
And sometimes you might uncork a 60-yarder when that Nebraska's not been up too often. But I think there was one where he had about a 60-some yarder and Lincoln into the wind. It was pretty spectacular to watch. But was it something that was a difference maker or something that caused the game to turn? But I think a lot of times when Nebraska's needed a big punt, they've had one that has been 18 yards or a shank or 35 yards or something like that, and it hasn't flipped the field like it's needed to. And there's an efficiency in punting that's probably deep in the analytics books, that I'm not sure that he has been the most efficient and effective punter at the right times this season, given, his promise. And I thought he was pretty good last year, but the timing of the good punts hasn't been there.
I mean, but do you give him any points back in that category though for the I think it's 4 touchdown saving tackles he's made this season on punts. He made one today.
I was going to say, there was one tonight I saw.
Didn't he down one of his own kicks?
That was the Bellata ball.
Yeah.
That,
he literally downed one of his own punts.
And
one step back.
Motzi, at the same time, I saw you shaking your head when it was talking about that. Like, when that was being said, like, what do you feel about that?
About the punting?
Yeah, about like the special teams in that aspect and how it changes the game, or does it change the game?
I think it totally makes a difference. I mean, you got to have a good kicker, obviously, if you want to, hit field goals at crucial times. And obviously with Buschini's punting situation in the last several games, it hasn't helped matters. And I think, was it Elijah that pointed out, or was it Bill that said that he was a little bit better than he was a year ago versus what he's been here in the last 3 games? I really think the special teams game is a big difference maker. And if you don't have, again, consistency there, you're going to be running into problems. I mean, you should be able to flip the field and not shank punts. Now, I know there's going to be off nights for guys, but you should be able to be a little bit more consistent trying to flip the field and try to put the ball well inside the 20-yard line if possible.
And whenever I think about this as a whole, I know it's not the end of the show just yet, but it kind of feels like my final point for the night of Nebraska lost this game tonight, not because of major issues. There's a whole bunch of little things. A punt that gets caught up in the wind and bounces back towards you and sets up Wisconsin on a short field. It's your offense not being able to pick up 4th and 1. It's your head coach letting 10 too many seconds run off the clock at the end of the game. You don't get enough chances at the end zone. It's your defense not being able to make a tackle, and Mordecai squirts free and picks up a first down and continues the drive. Or you stand up the running back at the 3-yard line in overtime, and the entire offensive line pushes forward for 3 more yards in the end zone. A lot of little things went wrong for Nebraska that led to the loss tonight. And that's kind of my story of the game is Nebraska and Wisconsin were pretty evenly matched, but Wisconsin won the battles in the little things that got them the win tonight.
Do you think we got outcoached, though? Did we get outcoached?
I think so.
I do.
Yes. I do. Yeah, totally.
That check mark goes to Fickell. I was watching a little bit of his post game and his kind of hallway radio interview, and he said his guys showed him a lot, and for them to kind of power forward when it was 14-0. I mean, that's the situation, man.
It was across the board too. It was I think Fickell outcoached Rule. Yep. I think that Phil Longo outcoached Tony White. Yeah. And I think that Tressel outcoached Marcus Satterfield. Across the board, I think Nebraska got outcoached. That might be the first thing that we have all in unison agreed upon with that game tonight.
When they decided to go tempo in the first half, and I think Nebraska was up 14-0, and that was after the failed 4th down attempt, and maybe more so in the second quarter than the first. But they started going tempo, and that.
And Bill, that was
Nebraska's defense looked worn down then.
Bill, that was a 4th and 1, right?
Yeah. But the Nebraska's defense in the latter stages of the first half started to look like it was wearing down, probably more so than at any time, maybe in a game this season. And that I think that carried over into the fourth, the third and the fourth quarter.
Real quick on the defense. I was talking to Vers about this, and Nebraska's defense has been on the field when it comes to snaps. It's the equivalent of now going into game 15 on Black Friday. So, I mean, that's real. And as much as they did the old hockey line change and rotated guys, and you still got Ty Robinson and the Polar Bear making plays in the fourth quarter, you're seeing some guys like Reimer and Henrich wear down a little bit at the linebacker spot. You've got some guys that are – I don't know that I've seen Lenhart hit a wall. Van Poppel made a reappearance. Jamari Butler's played his best football as the seasons got deeper. So it's different for some of those guys. But I'll say this about the defense, and this isn't fair because they have set the bar so high with how well they've played this season. But you can almost set time on it where you need the defense to come out and get a 3 and out. They probably have done it all game. All right. But if Nebraska's got a lead or there's a sudden change, they've been good with the turnover sudden change, keeping points off the board. But there's always been some sort of oxygen moment in a football game, these games Nebraska's lost, where the defense doesn't get a stop. They don't get a third down stop. And they can't quite shut the door for this team. As much as they've done, as much as they've carried the water, as great as they've been, there were some moments tonight with the missed tackles, the missed TFLs in the backfield, the 3rd and 8, the 3rd and 10, and Wisconsin was able to go get points when Nebraska really, really had to have a stop on defense. They don't get it. And say in some of these other drives, they did eventually get a stop, but the field had already been flipped.
And were there any second half sacks? You know, Nebraska came out and got to the quarterback in those first few drives of the first quarter, and that looked like that was a total tone setter. But there were times where Mordecai was just standing there. There was one time I thought they blew the play dead because he just stood in the pocket and nobody could get to him. You know, and then James Williams, we were excited about him a couple of weeks ago. He wasn't. I didn't even see him on the field tonight, but there was no second half pass rush really to speak of. You know,
there was about 4 or 5 missed sacks when they would win a one-on-one pass rush, but they couldn't bring him down. Fellas, we're about 5 minutes away from the midnight hour. We'll final thought it here, and there
you go. Yes, Fella's looking for a job.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to keep contributing to the Real Red Reaction beer money fund, we can also set up a separate checking account for advanced scouting. Just a programming note. We are on the road Wednesday for Hail Varsity. Wednesday on the road. We are at the Single Barrel. We'll get your Thanksgiving Eve kicked off the right way. We'll be at the Single Barrel for pregame from 6 a.m. to 11. Friday morning, that's the KFOR Morning Show live from 6 to 9. Hail Varsity from 9 to 11. And then off to the Black Friday showdown between Iowa. And then at the bar at 16th and P with Seth and Greg and the crew at Lazari's / the bar. We'll be there for Nebraska, Iowa. So I am not feeling good. I picked Nebraska to win 13-9. They didn't tonight. That's fine. They played really good football the first couple of drives. I'm excited about Chubba. I just think they may be out of gas with Iowa. As bad as Iowa's offense is, I think Iowa's got an injection of life with that comeback win against Illinois tonight. I am sad to say that I think Nebraska stays home for the holidays. I don't see them getting up off the mat. God love them if they do to get to 6-6, but they've had so many tries the last several weeks, guys, to get to that 6th win. I think it's going to be too tough to take on Black Friday, and then Nebraska fans will truly, truly need a hug and a therapist and Cousin Eddie to spike the eggnog this holiday season.
Don't disagree, by the way. Don't disagree.
It's going to be tough to get up after 3 straight missed opportunities to get that 6th win and to do it again. Yeah, it'll be difficult. It's a good thing for Nebraska that the game's at home, but let's face it, I was going to be motivated because of what happened last year. Yep. They have secured for themselves a spot in Indianapolis, much to my shock.
The public flogging at Indy,
and let's face it, they've got a pretty decent punter that can change the game if he's got to, but
he's already declared for the NFL after this season.
Yeah. So I think it'll be difficult, but I think the fortunate thing for Nebraska is that the game is at home. I think they found a quarterback. If Purdy comes out of that game healthy and isn't sore, then I think he gives them the best chance of the quarterbacks in the stable right now. I think Emmett Johnson's great. I think that defense has one last gasp in it because they're going against an offense that's not as good as what they faced today. I don't think anyway. And on that note, the Nebraska women's soccer team gets a chance to go to the Elite Eight tomorrow. And the Nebraska women's volleyball team has won to share the Big 12 title. So that's one way to end the weekend on a decent note.
Mozi, what do you say, bud?
I said
See
this.
you at Arnold's. See you at Arnold's in about 15.
Next Saturday, we'll meet you at Arnold's. I will say this.
I just want to know if Mozi is going to call some of my son's basketball games this year.
You know what? Check the schedule, Jabba. We got it up on our website. I will admit when I'm wrong. I said earlier in the year, give these guys a chance. I think everybody's giving them a chance. Things look promising when they went 5-3, and now you dropped 3 straight. I remember being in a group chat with some of my old basketball buddies from Northeast, and some of them were very displeased at, the effort. And it's like, you know what? You're 1 win away from a bowl eligibility spot. Give them a chance. I mean, it's a first year, and I still say that, but the last 3 games have been just a complete letdown. And let's face it, there were chances tonight for Nebraska to come out on top on the road in Madison, where you have not won since 1966. And, it comes down to being too conservative in sustainability, as I've mentioned before. I've always recalled MTXE. This is something that we had when I played basketball at Northeast. I think, Jabba, you might remember what this means. MTXE was the thing that we had that stood for mental toughness, extra effort. And I think you got to have some sort of mindset. Every time you go out there and you play a game, no matter what sport it is, if it's football, if it's basketball, hell, if it's baseball, volley, it doesn't matter. You got to have that mindset every time you step on the field and every time you're out there at practice, every day of the week. And I think and this goes to coaches too. I just think that they've been bruised up mentally from the standpoint that they've committed some costly mistakes, especially when you go back to that interception last week against Maryland, that now everybody's in kind of a defensive mode or conservative mode, is like, well, let's not pull the trigger. If you're going to go out there and you're going to try to win a ball game, be mentally tough about it and give that extra effort. I think that's been primarily the big problem for a lot of times this season for Nebraska, especially in games where they've had chances to win with, Maryland last week and even tonight against Wisconsin, where they've come up short that way. And if you have a tough mental approach to things, both as coaches and players, and you guys can be cohesive, you're going to be victorious. I think you're going to be successful. When you go into this game against Iowa on Friday afternoon, just go play your game. If you don't get your bowl eligibility or your bowl bid after Friday, then let's look ahead to next year. Let's regroup. Let's try to get some new personnel in that can get the job done, especially at the quarterback spot. If you're not confident in your quarterbacks right now, I think Chuba Purdy out of the 3 right now the last few weeks has demonstrated he's capable of running that offense. And I thought he did a terrific job tonight. But if you're looking to regroup, and at that spot, maybe a few other positions for next year, then, get to work out on that right after the game on Friday.
Go out with Dion.
What was that?
Go out and hit the recruiting trail with Dion.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that ended well.
Yeah. I don't know. This Friday is, as Schmitty said, to me, it's not looking that great. But at the same time, you have a 60-minute window at home to try and kick down this door again. I mean, you have one last opportunity, not only for this season, but for the guys who have been in this program for 5 years, who have been trying to get to that point for a very, very long time. And even if it doesn't look good right now, I think it'd be hard to say that at least the older guys on that team aren't going to lay every single thing out onto that field next Friday. It's going to be tough. Iowa's defense is great. Their offense is not so great. Let's see how this defense can maybe capitalize against Iowa after they're coming in with some swagger after a comeback win against Illinois, as you said, Schmitty. And I mean, it'll be interesting to see. It's kind of weird. hopefully this isn't the last game of my college career, and since it is the last home game of my college career, so hopefully they can extend that. But if not,
you can always go to grad school.
I could sell insurance to go to grad school. As Bill is
And by the way, thanks for making us all feel extra old at this point.
You're very welcome. I'm very good at doing that. But on a positive note, as Bill said, soccer's crushing it, volleyball's crushing it,
and I know it's the Big 10, not the Big 12. God.
And basketball, 21-point win this afternoon against Oregon State. Had to throw that in there. You know I'm a hoops guy, but should be interesting this Friday. Hopefully they get it done.
I'll get out on this.
You're going to say Big 8, Bill. I was hoping you were going to say Big 8.
Missouri Valley.
You would drop that in, Bill. Nice job.
So I'll get out on this. Final thoughts from Elijah Herbal. What I saw in the past 6 weeks, I mean, Nebraska had a chance to win this game tonight. They had a chance to win against Maryland. They had a chance to go win against Michigan State. There's been opportunities to win games. Nebraska will have an opportunity to go win against Iowa. I think that much is almost certain. This team will be ready to fight. It's senior day. They're in for a slugfest on Friday. But whatever happens on Friday, it's been a doom and gloom post-game show. With good reason. It's felt like a doom and gloom kind of evening based on what we saw tonight. But Nebraska has pieces in the boat. Matt Rule, everywhere he's been, eventually he has turned things around. I know he sounded defeated as Kevin chimes in on the stream. He sounded defeated in the post-game show, as you should. That was a demoralizing loss for everybody, the head coach included. But there's pieces to work with this Husker football program. You got to fix the quarterback position first and foremost. Luckily, that is one of the spots that there is always an abundance of riches in the portal when it comes to transfer quarterbacks. You have to pick the right one. You have to find the right one. There's always portal quarterbacks that you can go find. You have pieces on the offensive line that you can work with for a couple years. Justin Evans-Jenkins has stepped in. He's looked solid. I think Nuri's got another year of eligibility. Turner Corcoran comes back. We'll see what he looks like coming off of injury. I don't know. Regardless, you have a guy in Gunnar Gatula. You have Sam Sledge. You have pieces on the offensive line that will continue to get developed. It's freshman wide receivers that are out there playing and making plays for Nebraska right now with Jalen Lloyd and Malachi Coleman and Jaden Doss. There is pieces that Matt Rule has to work with moving forward. Defensively, I think a lot of people are confident what Tony White's doing. He's got pieces to work with on that side of the ball. Despite what the result was tonight, this Husker football team is moving in an upward trajectory. Regardless of what happens on Friday, I think Nebraska gives Iowa a hell of a game on Friday. I'm not guaranteeing a win. It'll be fun. Maybe it's going to be a demoralizing post-game show. Maybe we're talking about Nebraska playing in Detroit. Who knows what we'll be talking about on Friday?
The oil change bowl.
But what I know is Nebraska has pieces to work with. Matt Rule is coaching them up. Maybe it takes an offseason. Maybe Nebraska gets Iowa. Who knows? But I am not all on the doom and gloom for Matt Rule. He doesn't know how to fix things around here. He's got some pieces. He's bringing in more pieces. You got to give him the time to get things right. It's been the worst 5-year stretch of Husker football in history. That is a low hole you are trying to dig yourself out of.
And he's not going to Texas A&M.
What was that, Jeff?
Are you sure about that, Elijah? I mean, there was a period in the 40s and 50s. There was a big stretch where Nebraska football was not up to par at all.
That was before Husker football was Husker football.
It doesn't count.
Doesn't count.
They were the
history. It starts with Bob Devaney. That's when Husker football history
okay.
starts with Bob Devaney. But there's a low hole that Matt Rule is trying to build out of. I think there's still hope for the future despite what we saw last night. We'll see if it translates to Friday. If it doesn't, it's going to be a long off season, but we'll have plenty to talk about.
But I also think, too, Elijah, to your point of what it is, I also think it's a mindset in every individual that plays. It can't be Matt Rule doing everything. It can't be Satterfield. It can't be anybody doing that. Those boys have to sit together as young men and be like, to believe what you want to do and get to where you want to do. So there's only so much that these coaches can do, where if you don't sit in yourself and you don't have a leader of that team to hold them accountable, because I was fortunate enough to watch Motzi and do those things that he did and win state championships. They did it themselves. They had a good leader, but they dictated themselves. And if they can't dictate themselves and win, that's where I think we're lacking.
No, totally get it. And player-led's always the way it's going to go. There is a country party downstairs in the basement I'm being beckoned to. I bid you farewell.
I'm sorry.
They're on the boots, Schmitty.
No, I'm going to pack up and go home probably. But
You're not going to get out your 10-gallon hat?
there may be.
Is it Bob's Country Bunker downstairs?
There's country and western.
I was going to say, you're listening to the good old boys behind the chicken wire?
They have the state's best pepper steak, too.
They do. And the old Salisbury steak is a winner. And yeah, I think there's no more Morgan left in this house. You're
going to Salisbury steak at midnight? That's impressive.
Blue Lou walks up and says, "Chicken wire."
Well, get the chicken wire ready. It's Iowa. It's Nebraska on Black Friday. Bill, thank you for coming in. Jabba, thank you for coming in. Motzi, appreciate you. Elijah, you're awesome. Connor, appreciate you guys for checking in. Spunky says, Elijah and Chris, no excuses Monday.
Spunky, no promises. Just kidding.
We'll gear up for the Hail Varsity show at 4. The Average Joe Sports Show will have a pod Monday, and then, of course, we'll do a triple play pod at some point next week with Jabba Chamberlain. So subscribe to all and enjoy. Big thanks to Lazares.
And you buried the lead. You buried the lead. That is 3 different awesome shows you can all check out for your Thanksgiving commute next week as you make the trip to Iowa City or over to visit the in-laws.
Why are we going to Iowa City?
I'm doing it tomorrow, so I won't. I'm just kidding.
Good point. Nebraska is playing in Lincoln next week. My point still stands.
And at the same time, you guys are all white. I'm Native American. I don't celebrate Thanksgiving, so we'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Buzzkill.
Wow. Well, go to Lazares and have a great pizza.
Yes, enjoy that. Appreciate it.
What a way to end the show.
Yeah. By the way, you bastards. Hell no, I'm not coming to your
white
house.
people celebrate Thanksgiving. I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. Why would I? But at the same time, it's Native Heritage Month, so I guess I'll just enjoy it, right?
That's so good.
You white people, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Glad to know you guys.
I'm so glad it's happened.
No, I will not bring a side dish to your house on Thursday.
I have Friendsgiving. I don't have Thanksgiving.
You can take that side dish and shove it.
I didn't know that was going to end this way, but that's freaking fantastic. So good.
So good. By the way,
I'm so glad you guys gave me that opportunity. Thank you guys so much.
But thanks for hopping on.
Thanks, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for talking about Thanksgiving, guys. Appreciate it.
Get the basketball game.
Real Red Reaction. Watch. We'll go to the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, the Real Red Reaction YouTube channel, Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter at HVarsity Radio, KFOR Facebook, KFOR Twitter. Catch us on all of these platforms and also over the air, KFOR, KFORnow.com for pre and post game on Black Friday. We'll be back at you next time. Thanks.